Okay, looks like we're live. Don't know what happened there earlier, but we're having some kind of weird YouTube issue, right? I'm thinking we're okay now. It may have been momentarily a connectivity issue, but we are COMP305, and if it's fall 2016 and it's week 10, part 1 of our broadcast. Today we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff. Can I get somebody to actually check the stream to see if it's actually streaming? You're good? We're good to go? It was a really weird thing. We were there. We were not able to connect for a second. But that's fine. It's probably a YouTube glitch. So we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. One of the things is assignment 3 part 2 is due now on Wednesday, not on Monday. We've extended you by a couple days just because people were asking to give you a couple days to get that done. So that's one. That's one thing I want to talk about. And the other thing is we're going to talk about what our weeks are going to look like over the next little while. And I want to make sure that I'm actually doing screen flow as well, because I don't think I am. Hold on a second here. Just in case something happens. Okay, yeah, so again, a little bit discombobulated today. COMP305, F2016, lesson 10, part 1, and we're talking about a couple of things. We had a couple of issues making things go today. So again, 3 things we're covering today, I think. And again, it's a lot to cover, but we're going to try it. 1, how to export and import packages from Unity. That's the one thing we have to try to know how to do, right? Because, you know, package management is really, really important to do. Number 2, right, is I want to talk about how to build a mini map for your game. So to help you with navigating through, if you're making a maze game for 3D, or even if you're doing a 2D game, you can always make a mini map that tells the player where he's at and where his enemies are. I didn't have time to do fog of war in the first part, but if we have time, we'll do a fog of war in this time, and we'll talk about ways of doing it. There's a couple ways we can do that. Some strategies about doing fog of war, if we can. And then the final piece is how to make intelligent enemies or semi-intelligent enemies with a navigation mesh so that they can find you wherever you are, right? Because if you're making a maze, it doesn't make sense for the enemies to be trapped, right? They want to be able to find you and get you, right? So that's what we're doing today. Next week, we're going to be working on user interface, how to switch between scenes. So we're going to move from scene 1 to scene 2, scene 3. Talk about that. Talk about how to save and load our games, save and load user data, that kind of stuff. That's all next week. And as well as I'm going to start animation, like 3D animation, like 101. Kind of, so how do you do 3D animation? Simple animations next week. Weeks, that's week 11. Week 12 and week 13, we have special topics weeks, which I'm going to start posting some examples. There is opportunity for someone who hasn't done well on an assignment, assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3, to do a presentation about a special topic of their choice, right? If they're interested. Now, the presentation has to be pretty awesome because everyone's going to be watching you. And I have to get you to YouTube it with me, right? Which means it's going to go up on YouTube, and it's going to be COMP305 F2016 lesson 12 part 1, and it's going to be, you know, Alexander who's going to be doing it, or Alex is going to do it for us, right? I'm just saying, or Ashley is going to come up and do a presentation in front of everybody, and her name, her voice is going to be in the presentation, not mine, right? I'm just saying these are opportunities for people who haven't had a chance to do it properly. You'll be required to put some kind of structure around it, and it'll be a bonus presentation for people who want to do it. I can't have everyone do it because there's just not enough time. So I'll pick selected students who are the first people will be people who have an issue or who wanted to replace a mark, like an assignment 1, assignment 2, or assignment 3 mark because they didn't do so well, right? So those top topics we can cover are things like rigging and skinning. If you really want to go into it, it's kind of a difficult topic. Other modeling topics, for example, modeling with Maya instead of Blender, how to do that. What's the advantage, disadvantage? Those kind of things, as well as other interesting topics that we can think of next week. We'll kind of put together a topics list. We'll put it up on our Slack channel. So that's coming up on weeks 12 and 13. I will try and cover as much as I can. If you ask me to do something, like say no one wants to present, but you ask me to cover a topic that, like for example, one person said today, can you cover a slashing weapon? Some kind of like, you know, an arm that kind of slashes a sword or something. How does that work with a first-person perspective game, right? Yes, we can do it, but it'll take all class, right? So the arm and the hand, I mean, we could probably find some assets, but that's where I'll probably go. But if you're actually going to create a mesh with the arm and the hand, right? First, that's the first part, and then the second thing is then you have to rig it and skin it. Rigging is like putting bones in the arm so that it knows what to do, and then creating animation to make it go from, kind of an extended position to a kind of a curled up position, holding a weapon, and then the slashing motion. It's quite a lot of work, and it can take all class just to do that, right? And it sounds like, well, that's nothing. You're just making a slash, but it's actually animation, and you have to do keyframe animation, testing it, adjusting it, and it would be like watching paint peel for some of you, because you're like, holy, it's a lot of work, right? So we can try and do that, or I can try and download some assets or find some assets. The other one I had a question was, can I make volumetric water, caustic water effects? So I'm in the bottom of a swimming pool. My game is about, it's a water game, right? And everything's underwater. I want it to look like underwater. How do I do that, right? We'll talk about those things as well. So these are kind of topics to come. And simple animations we're going to cover next week. So things like coins, keys floating in the air, those kind of things. All that kind of stuff we can cover next week. Remember that any kind of triggers like chests opening and all that kind of stuff, really easy to do. It's just you colliding with the chest, and as soon as you collide with a chest, like a trigger collider, it opens. So you have an open animation. It opens up, makes a noise, and then you see, if you collide with a chest or it pops away, you get the treasure, whatever. There's lots of things you can do with this game, and a lot of this stuff will be you can use for your final project. On that final project, remember I said it would be like up to 3 people. I would allow up to 4 people, right, to go on the final project. So 2 teams come together. Some people have requested that the assignment 3 is 3 people. It's hard for me to see how that's going to be possible. I know people have texted me, emailed me, and all that kind of stuff. But try and keep it within 2 for the final. Final days, so that's week 12 and 13 is special topics. Week 14, we're going to be doing a presentation. Everyone's going to be is going to be required to do presentations in place of the final exam. So no final exam, just a presentation with you and your team members. So if you have 4 people come up and they do a little bit of a pitch. They show us their game design document, kind of, or excerpts from their game design document. Here's my plan. Here's we're team so and so. I am so and so. I'm the designer. I'm the artist. This other person here is the programmer. We have this guy. He's more of a project manager, but he also did some programming. And we made this game. It's pretty awesome. I think it's going to sell well. That kind of thing. It's a prototype, right? And then you can do your little pitch, and then you do a little demo of level 1, level 2, level 3 of your game, because your final project is going to require level 1, level 2, level 3, as well as your intro scene, your menu scene, some kind of instructions. And some people also like to do an instruction level. Some people had asked to do that. Can I do an instructions level, almost like a tutorial level? I'm cool with that. It's just extra work, right? Instructions to me are okay if you go from one scene to the other and you kind of do a little bit of an instructions, like between scenes, when you go from one scene, like level 1 to level 2, little instruction scene. And then a final scene, like some kind of game over scene, right, where when you're done, the game over scene is going to show you game over, whatever, do you want to play again, right? So that's really it in a nutshell for the next few weeks, right? For your final project, there are going to be several milestones. So next week, you're going to get your final project. Milestone 1 will be due week 12. Milestone 2 will be due week 13. And the final milestone for the completed project will be due week 14, right? So each week you'll be having to do something. There's going to be some kind of deadline and requirement for you to do stuff. So please do not work alone. This would be very bad. Working alone is like crazy in this business, right? And no one really does it, okay? There's very few single developers that develop everything, right? It's very rare. So, because it's a lot of work. And especially when you have other projects you're working on, assignments. And this is not I'm sure this is not your only class for most of you. So, please try and work with other people to make it easier. Now, sometimes working with other people makes it harder because, you have to collaborate with others, meet with them, the overhead of meeting, meeting norms, getting together, chit-chatting. right? As opposed to getting anything done, eating, right? Laughing, talking about games, movies, and whatever, and not doing any work, right? But you got to get over that. You have to make it so that you have a 5-minute or 10-minute of chiming in, seeing everybody, saying hi, hugging everybody, whatever you're going to do, and then getting right to work. Otherwise, you'll never get this done. Okay. So that's really the plan for the next few weeks. Let's get right to Unity. So I want to talk about a couple things. Last week, I'm going to bring up Unity for a second. We worked with a project called Lesson 9B. And what I want to do is I want to export certain parts of Lesson 9B to create Lesson 10B. Now, I did Lesson 10A for the morning class. I'll do Lesson 10B for you, and I'm going to do that first. I'm going to create a new project. And it's going to be called, again, COMP305, F2016. Actually, I'll put it all together. F2016. Lesson 10B. Now, I showed this to the early class too. What you could do is if you wanted to add assets you know you're going to need, you could add them right here. Add asset package, right? And notice there's a bunch of asset packages in here that are built in that you can use, and ones that you've downloaded from the asset store will appear here, right? I'm not going to do that though. I'm not going to add an asset package. I'm going to do it in game. I'm going to click Create Project. It's going to be empty. And I'm going to have the following setup right now. So I have, one thing I've changed is I've also added a navigation tab, which you can find under Window Navigation, right? And I've just kind of parked it over here on the right. So we're going to do navigation later. All right, so here's my assets. I want to make a scenes folder, so I'm going to kind of create a new folder called Scenes. And inside my scenes folder, I'm going to call this scene, right? The indoor scene. So I'm going to kind of make a new scene, create a new scene. Actually, I'll just save my scene. There we go. Put it in my scenes folder and call it indoor. There we go, indoor. Save. My indoor scene is right here. And what I want to do is, there's no assets for my scene right now. I want to import all my assets from my previous project, right? Now, before I do that, I'm going to say this. I'm going to kind of set up my GitHub account. So I'm going to go File, Quit. I'm going to open up my terminal window or command prompts, right? And I'm going to find my project, which is under, for me, it's under Desktop, Unity Projects. And under Unity Projects, I have Lesson 10B. And I'm going to go CD, so change directory to drag and drop to Lesson 10B and press Enter. And then clear. Here's my Unity project. I'm going to say git add dot. Oh, sorry. How about git init first? Git init for initialization. So I'm initialize my Git repository. And before I do git add dot, I want to add a gitignore file. Now on Mac, you just do touch and then .gitignore. On PC, you'd right-click and add a new text file, and you call it .gitignore, right? That's what you would do. We've done this before, right? Now my gitignore file is empty. I wanted to ignore any builds. So if I do a build, I don't want it to include the build. So I'm going to use my handy-dandy Visual Studio Code for that. I'm going to bring up Visual Studio Code. And this is 10A. I want to try and drop in 10B. There's 10B. And notice I don't have anything in my gitignore file right now. I want to kind of add in a reference to builds. So that means it's going to ignore builds. Okay. Let me get out of that. Now I'm going to say git add dot git commit minus m, and we'll call this initial commit. There we go. And what I want to do now is create a repository, a place up on GitHub. This is from the morning, Lesson 10A. Let's make a new one. So COMP305, F2016, Lesson 10B. Now, typically the B class is better because I've kind of rehearsed with the A class, right? They have all the bad stuff. So I'm going to copy these two last lines and put it into my terminal here. Enter. And now we have our basic project up on GitHub. Please don't download it yet. I'll tell you when I'm ready. All right, because I want to import. I want to show you how to do this. I want to import the other stuff into my project because right now my project is empty. And instead of me building all those files and folders and everything else again, it doesn't make any sense. I'll just do it all at once. So I'm going to launch Unity. And what I want to do is I want to be able to export first. Okay. Now, I created a couple things last time, and I did it a little bit differently this morning, and I thought about maybe doing it slightly differently only because I want to preserve, sorry, these are the ones I exported, these packages. I want to kind of kill those from this morning. And I'm just going to make a couple of more packages myself. So I want to go into last week's lesson. So last week's lesson was COMP305 lesson 9B, if I'm not wrong. Lesson 9B. And if I can't find it here, I'll just open it up. So lesson 9B, there it is. That's the one I went through. We had a couple problems with the build at the end, right? We couldn't build and put this up on GitHub, or it wouldn't play in the, it wouldn't play on WebGL, right? We had an issue with the ray casting. It didn't work. So I'm not going to take every part of it, and I don't want to recreate. I don't want to recreate my mountain and everything else. So I'm only going to take a few things from here, not the player and not the. That's why I'm telling you not to do. But I'm going to show you. I'm going to demonstrate to you how to do the export process. So what do I want? I want my scripts. So I'm going to include this, the whole scripts folder. I can include a folder like this by just highlighting it, and then I can include the materials folder. So my materials folder is going to be my background material and my line material, which we haven't fixed yet, right? So scripts and materials. Models are tile 1 and tile 2, Pedro's models. We're going to add to those today, right? My prefabs, I've got a couple prefabs I want to add in. One of them is the player, but I don't want to have all these prefabs happen, right? In fact, I'm thinking about only adding in the ground prefab and the water terrain. That's it. I don't want to have anything else in there. Textures, I'll add all these textures in there, no problem. These textures aren't going to bother me, right? So that's kind of an amalgam of things I want to add in, and I want to export. Here's what I could do, fast way. Highlight everything, right? And only select stuff that you don't want, like deselect things you don't want to export, if you want that. So how do I do that? Fast way, hit Assets, right-click, Export Package. Then it's going to pick up everything that's inside your package, right? The problem with this approach, and I'll pull it up to you so you can see it, is it shows me all the dependencies and I don't know which ones I need. I want to reduce my project size. I don't want to keep the same project size. So nice idea, but the problem with this one is I don't know which ones I need. So let's stop this one. Let's try that again. So let's do what I said I was going to do. I want my scripts, that's for sure. I want my materials. I want my models, right? This new terrain, I want that. That's my new terrain itself, right? Because that's the terrain that I got here. In my prefabs, right? That's one export that I want to do, right? And my textures. So if these are kind of like supporting pieces that I need, right? I didn't get my prefabs yet. I will. I'm going to do that a little separately in a second. So let's just pick these ones. So export. Notice it picks a lot of stuff just by picking scripts, materials, models, new terrain, and textures. It's a lot of stuff that it picks up, right? These are all the things. Notice my player controller is not included in this. But my FPS bullet impacts in my scripts, right? In my assets, FPS is also selected, right? But how is that possible? How is that? This is where my issue is, right? How is it that my FPS is selected when I didn't choose prefabs? I got an issue. That's the answer. So I don't want my FPS effects, right? Notice that it did this because I included all dependencies. That's what it did, right? If I said don't include dependencies, it would just give me a list of stuff that I want. These are all the things that I want to add in. My new terrain, right? And you know what? I know it sounds a little crazy, but that's the way I would have to do it, right? Let's not include my new terrain either. So it's just, I'll leave that later. And I've just included stuff that I can see. I'll use my new terrain when I do my prefabs. Okay, so I want to export. So I've unchecked my new terrain. Now it's going to ask me where I want it to export. I want to go to my desktop, and I want to call this I'll just call this like initial assets. That's what it is. It's not really everything, just my initial assets. I'm going to put this on my desktop, and I'm going to press save. Great. Now, here's my initial assets package. Next piece. I want some of my prefabs, but not all. So I'm going to open up my prefabs folder, right? My prefabs folder. And I want to select certain prefabs, like my water terrain, my tile, right? I don't want to select my muzzle flash or my player or anything like this. I want to do that separately in another project, right? Because I know it's broken. And my ground, those are the ones I want. And not even my canvas. I'm not even getting that today, all right? And now the other thing I really wanted to get, I was hoping to find as well, was my terrain, right? But let's see if it includes it anyway. So I want to kind of say, right-click, export package. And if I'm right, it should grab my terrain anyway. Now look at all the stuff it's grabbed. It says, again, somehow my ground and my tile and my water terrain is grabbing my controller, my explode, my FPS, all this stuff, which I don't want. That's weird, right? That shouldn't be. So assets FPS, my ground and my tile and my water terrain shouldn't include any of that stuff. Right, so let's just undo this. No assets there. Standard assets, don't know why this is happening, so get rid of those. Right, all my standard assets should be gone. Well, that's not true. Characters I don't need because I'm going to incorporate that later because I am entering a terrain and a ground. I will need some of that. So I don't care about characters, that's for sure. Cross-platform input's not going to bother me, right? My environment stuff I definitely want because that's the terrain itself, right? Water basic, all that stuff I want. All my utility scripts, these are all fine. Here are my terrain assets, right? For my textures and so on, those are good. My scripts, I think I already got those, right? My editor, I'll take. My models, I've already taken those, right? I've already taken my models and my stuff, but I'm going to uncheck those. So I don't care. I want to make this separate. And I definitely need my ground, my tile, and my, actually I have to take my models. Need terrain asset. I have to take that too. And I don't really care about these ones because I got my scripts already. All right, so these are just my selected prefabs. All right, so I'm going to kind of export. I don't have to export everything, but just selected prefabs. Selected prefabs. I'm going to put that on my desktop. Okay, now I know that my player is a mess. Somehow it's messed up and it will not allow me to export or to create a WebGL build, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another project for that one. So I'm going to kind of close this one down. I'm taking 2 projects. So a couple packages that I got here, and I'm gonna launch another project. So here's my Unity. That's good. And I'm going to go into an example project that I did to fix my problem. And this is something that sometimes what we have to do is kind of create a little experiment to fix my issue. I called it lesson 9C, right? Which you guys never saw. And lesson 9C is just, all it is a tile. That's all it is. Just a tile, a barrel, a canvas, and that kind of stuff. In my prefabs in here, I've got my barrel, my bullet impact, my explosion, my muzzle flash, my player. Notice I've kind of separated out what I want. I also want my canvas. So I'm going to pull this one in to my prefabs. Save that. So my canvas. All right, so these are all things that I want. I don't care about my event system or my directional light. And I also want to bring in my tile just in case. So here's my tile. There we go. So I've got all my stuff that I'm going to bring in. So these are all the other ones that I want. And I'm going to select only the prefabs, right? And I'm going to say export. package. All right, now notice what it does. It takes all the dependencies, right? And this is good. This is what I wanted to do, right? All the dependencies out. And it's going to export everything, sounds and the whole thing out to where I want it. So export. I'm going to go to desktop. Now I've got two. I've got selected prefabs, my initial assets, and my, I'll say player prefabs. Player and related prefab space. Player, the barrel, all that stuff, the gun, the canvas. Okay, it's done. Yay. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to close off Unity. And now I'm going to go back into my project, right? My real project for today. And let's see if we can put them together and do a test build, WebGL test build, to see if it all works. So I'm going to go to 10B. Empty. Right? Now I'm going to import. I'm going to go Assets, Import Package, Custom Package. And now I'm going to choose from my desktop the packages that I want. So let's start with Player Prefabs. Open. It's going to open up the package, kind of Import Unity Package window. I'm going to click Import. So all those are going to go on. And notice it creates all the required folders for you. It also recasts all your assets and everything else in the proper folder. See, the folder structure is created. All right. One thing to note that this says imported as seats, and we're going to just change that to as sets, just so that way it's the same as the other one. It was just a spelling mistake on my part. All right, so this one. So I'll save the scene. Next, assets, import package, custom package. We did the first one. We'll do the next one. Selected prefabs. Open. Import. Anything that's already there, it won't import. Right? And it imports the rest. Whatever else I didn't have. One more, and then there's one more after this. Okay? Assets, import package, custom package, and the last one, initial assets. Open. Those are all the textures, materials, all kinds of other stuff. And I have my scripts. I don't need them. Import. So that's pretty much everything, right? If I go to textures, it has almost everything I need, but I know I'm also going to need some textures for my mini map. And all I'm doing in my mini map textures, just to let you know, is I have these sprites that only look like little triangles. There's a red triangle for the enemy and a green triangle for the player, right? Instead of wasting your time creating these little triangles, I'm just going to import them, okay? I could do it the other way, but why? So I'm going to kind of close this one off again. First, I'll save my scene, and then I will close Unity. So I'm building the Unity package up this way as opposed to the other way, like I did before, right? So I know that I have another Unity. Actually, you know what I could do? Let me open that back up again. I'll do it the other way around. Because I only have, there's just two issues with that one. I'm not going to, that's not a big deal. Okay, sorry. What I meant to do is go into Unity projects, into the last project I did, which was 10A, which I've already built. And inside my assets, I have a couple of new textures, my enemy and my player. And I'm going to bring those into these textures. Okay, so there they are, enemy and player. One thing to note about these is we have to change them from texture. So alpha transparency is 1. I got to change that. I go from texture to sprite and apply. Same thing with this one. So I got to change this from texture, from the alpha transparency has to be on. Apply that one, and then go from texture to sprite. Because they're going to be sprites that are going to hang out. Okay, so those are done. So I've got everything here. I think it's a great place because I want to build everything with you. This is a great place to put it up to GitHub. So I'm going to save my scene, and there's nothing in there. I'm going to file. I'm going to Unity. I'm going to quit. And I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to say git add dot, and then git commit -m. I'll say added assets, right? And git push origin. And that'll give you everything that I have, which is probably going to be, if I'm not wrong, if I measured it correctly this morning, something like 400 megs. Well, maybe not, 62 megs. There, beautiful, excellent. Much, much smaller project than was before. Before, remember what that project was like. It was massive. It was like 1.2 or 2 point something gig, right? That was last week. And that's just importing assets we didn't need. So sometimes you go on the Unity Asset Store and you download something. Don't automatically import it into your scene. Make a new test scene, if you will, or a test project. Import it all into there, this new asset package you want to use, right? Test it in there. And then when you have that asset package, select the prefabs you want from the package, and then export only those prefabs out into an export. And then import those prefabs into your scene. That's way better. It cuts down on the overhead of your Unity project, right? So you won't have gigs and gigs of Unity stuff. Okay. So now that I've got this, let us reopen Unity again one last time. Well, it won't be the last time. Let's open it up again. And let's start building our thing for today. All right. Let's put these back in order. So I'm going to kind of so I don't need a main camera because I'm going to have my own. My player object, my player prefab, which is right here, should have its own camera, right? So I'm going to pull the player prefab into the scene. Notice the player prefab automatically has a gun, right? And there's some stuff that's here already. Muzzle flash, explosion, bullet impact, and sound, all that stuff is here. It's already included because I've included it as prefabs inside your prefabs folder. I also need a canvas. Pull that canvas in. The canvas includes the reticule, which is the little dot in the middle of the screen. And then I'll bring in the tile. So here's my tile. This is the tile that Pedro supplied for us, right? So here we go. Here's our tile, and our player is way over here. I'm going to move the player in a second, but let's just put the tile in place. And then we're going to include the ground as well as the water terrain. Right? So that's all there today. So all the same stuff we did last week is now there, right? And that's important for us to be able to do that. Okay, this is the outdoor scene though, right? When we're doing this one. This wouldn't be the indoor scene, that would be outdoor scene. Because we've included water, terrain, and ground. I can do that, right? It's still not there? I did, I swear, I did, right? But I'll do it again. I didn't not include something, right? So give me 1 second while I do this, and I'll push it again, okay? So player, my canvas, my tile. How about this? Let's get rid of my ground terrain and my water terrain for now, because that would be the outdoor scene. Right, but you can see how it appears, right? And now what I want to do is I want to kind of teleport my tile, the tile itself, to the middle of the screen, which is 0, 0, 0. There we go. So my player is intact. Let's also include a couple of things we're missing here. Layers. One thing we didn't get is the layers. We don't have a barrels layer or barrels tags. We don't have that. It's going to fail for that. Here's barrels, right? And the other thing we don't have is the gun layer. Notice there is no gun layer here. That's bad. That means that our camera won't work properly. So I'll add a new layer, and we'll call this the gun layer. Right, here's our gun layer. And we have to assign the gun layer to the gun. So here's our gun cam. And notice the culling mask is gun. Now there's a gun layer. It's accepting it. Right? Before, it wouldn't work properly, right? Because it wasn't there before. Okay, let's try this out the way it is, and then I'll upload it to GitHub. All right, so I can do that. And I'm way up here. Let's move my mouse down in here. And I can shoot. But it says tag barrels is not defined. I need to tag that too. So that's funny. I don't have a tag barrels. Right, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to say add tag barrels. These are all things that are required, or else it'll give an error, right? And it fires and I get the weapons. Now you can't hear it because it's on my earphones, but it actually does work. Okay? So that firing works, everything is working fine, the effects are working, and I've imported everything as opposed to starting from scratch. That's really important. Okay, before we go on, I'm going to do a WebGL build, and then I'll upload everything to you guys. Right? So I'm going to go to WebGL. I'm going to add the open scene. There it is, indoor scene. Right? And I'm going to build and run. Just keeping the standard settings. Because this is the problem that I had. So I'm going to put it in my builds folder. Right, there it is. I'm going to call this WebGL. Right? And now you won't get this piece because this is the piece that is going to be not put up to GitHub, right? But what I'm doing is I'm testing to see right now at this point, after I've kind of imported everything I need, can I do my WebGL build? Because in my first part of my class and the last part of this class, last week, we couldn't do WebGL build. It was something messed up because I did a drag and drop foible. Some kind of shenanigans happened behind the scene that I couldn't figure out. And like we saw when I was trying to export, there was all this other stuff being exported, like almost like it was embedded in our files. And we don't want it to. Exporting allows us to clean that up, right? Because we say no, we don't want all this stuff. All I want is this the the things I need in the scene, not anything else. So I know if it's going to work because if I press play with my WebGL build and I don't hear a sound in my earphones, that's no sound, and there's no I don't see any impacts from the bullets, I know that the WebGL build failed again. And it's something else. It's some other kind of embedded resource, because I'll tell you, what the other scene I made this other project, which is lesson 9C. It was clean, and I built it from scratch, and it worked great in WebGL. So something else was causing that issue, and I couldn't tell what it was last week. So let's see what happens now. So now all we have is a tile, and we have our player. And if WebGL build works, and what's happening right now is it's converting it to C++, a low level. And that's what's happening. Hey, one other thing is this, right? We didn't do a couple things. In our lighting, we didn't actually set up our lighting to be a bake. And I talked about this last week briefly, and I recommend it again for this week. Whenever we do 3D, we bake everything, right? Why? Because performance is better. If we have real-time lighting on everything we do, it's going to be, we're going to take a hit performance-wise, right? Most systems cannot handle real-time lighting to provide 60 frames per second. It's just not possible. Not with everything we have, especially if it's a large scene, right? So bake everything is the rule, right? As much as possible, right? So we're going to finish this off, and then I'll rebake it. And when we do another WebGL build again, it'll be with a baked lighting as opposed to real-time. So we just have to wait for this to be done. It takes a bit of time. Other things to note, WebGL Build is going to look different always than your regular build, right? Because if you use a standalone build, it might work great. WebGL Build may look different. And don't be upset about it. Don't look at it and go, oh, WebGL is something went wrong. I didn't do it right. It's not that you didn't do it right. It will look different because it's a different shader. Take a look at this. On the top of my screen, it says I'm using OpenGL 4.1, right? For PC users, they're using DirectX 11, right? And for WebGL, it's WebGL, different shader altogether, different whole background system. Okay, I'm hearing sounds, and I'm hearing impacts. You can see the impacts. That means our ray casting is working, and we've kind of overcome a hurdle. All right, this is good. I'm just going to get out of this. Okay, good. So we've got WebGL. Our first build's working. I'm going to upload it to GitHub again. So I'm going to go back up to Unity. I'm going to kind of cancel this, save the scene, save the project, leave Unity, go back up here, clear the screen, git add dot. That's good. Git commit -m, and I'll say updated outdoor scene. Right? And then git push origin master, which should upload the rest of what you guys are missing. Let's take a look. Another 15 gigs, 50 megs. Oh, that's weird. That is a weird thing. Okay, thank you for that. Right, can you see it?
I see.
All right, so it didn't go to the right repository. That's really weird. That makes sense a lot. Yeah, let me refresh. Yeah, because I put it here. Well, you know what we're going to do, right? Kill this one. Bear with me. I'm going to kill this one and put it back on Centennial. So it takes 2 seconds. Right, so I'm just going to go in settings. I do that sometimes. Sorry. I'm trying to make it Centennial so it's easier for you guys to find. That's what it is, right? So delete repository and grab this one. That's what happens sometimes. Okay, because we're going live, and when we go live, my friends, it is what it is, right? So I'm going to do a new repository, and it's not going to be here. It's going to be on Centennial, and we'll call it COMP305 F2016 lesson 10B. There we go. Now that's on Centennial. However, this is different. The remote is different. Now we did get remote add. How do I fix that? Well, I can just remove the remote. So I can say something like clear hit remote remove, right? Origin. Now if I go get remote, I shouldn't have any remote, and I can do this next pieces here. I can kind of do all these, and let's see if I can paste them in and press enter, and hopefully it'll be beautiful. Now this is going to push to the other remote. So now we'll see the real size of the files because I've pushed everything. Now, I remember it was something around, like I said, 400 megs. That was my last build I did and that was the broken build. Even so, it's still broken. Now I'm only 78 megs, and it's still beautiful, right? Now that's not including our WebGL build, right? So 78 megs that I pushed up, and that's like what I'm pushing up to GitHub. If you refresh now on GitHub, you'll see the lesson 10B with no builds folder, right? Locally, however, if I was to look at my project folder, right, which is this one, 10B, I have a builds. So if I looked at how big the actual folder really is locally, if I go get info on the folder, I can see right now that I'm about 286 megs on my disk, right, locally. Okay, this is without compression. If I open up the file and open up builds itself and I go get info on the build I made, the build is 9.5 megs. That's it. That's small. That's tiny compared to what it was. So really, we're talking about under 300 megs for everything right now, which is way better than 1.2 gigs, was what we had before. Huge difference, right? And that's what we do things like exporting and importing, because it just cuts down on the fat from what we're going to get. It makes our project run better too. Okay. So that's really cool. We're going to get back to this nav mesh stuff later on, but let's pull up a Unity or Unity again. Okay, we're back to lesson 10B. We've got everything working. It should work for you now if you go in there and grab it. And I've got this little tile, right? So far what we've covered is how to export and import. That's the first piece, okay? Anyone have questions about exporting and importing? Okay. Now is the time where I want to build out our maze, right? Last week we kind of did this. Over this week and next week, I want to kind of build out our UI and finish my game by next week, kind of thing, right? In my demo. I want to build out my maze, and Pedro supplied me with a couple of tiles, but there's some other tiles that I can also include from you guys, right? So let's put in, if I go to my prefabs, I only have one. I have another one in my models folder, and then that tile number 1 looks like this. It's kind of a different looking tile altogether. I'm going to bring that in. I'll leave it as tile 1 this time around. Now notice it's layering on top, and what I can do, and it's not really coordinated properly. Notice that the exit is on one side all the time, which is kind of offsetting my tile. So what I can do, just because I want to use this tile, is I can grab the bottom, this tile here, and press the V key, right, and snap the tiles to grid, right, or snap the tiles together, and then move this tile, this odd tile, so that it kind of aligns with the other one. There we go. So we kind of have a tile like this, and in fact, if I want to, I'm going to do a little differently this time around, just because I want to reuse. I'm going to kind of duplicate this tile, pull this out, right? And we're going to kind of pull it over here. And we're going to snap this tile, right? So by using the V key, snap this tile in, right? And then move this tile a little bit offset, just so that we have a couple of entrances from the main one. I'm going to keep doing that in a flower pattern, right? So do that again. So here's tile number 2. And then kind of duplicate this one and pull it out. And kind of go down here. Now there's a problem. What's the problem with these tiles? Anybody? It's kind of simple. I forgot to do something. Well, that's one problem, but that's a different issue that I'm talking about. What was that? A no collider. That's right. No collider. It'll kind of I'll go right through these things, right? I'm going to do them all at once in a second. You'll see, right? So I'll the next one. So I'll kind of do this little flower pattern. And again, this is the indoor tiles. I'm going to kind of get this one too. And then kind of duplicate it and pull it aside and pull it down. They're kind of very symmetrical, these ones, so I kind of like this one. And I kind of grab the edge, pull it in, and pull it aside because I want to make it so that it is, give me the opening that I want. There we go. Looks like I've got everything done. I've done everything correctly, right? So I've got this little pattern that I've got here for my tiles, right? Which is kind of interesting. And these are just Pedro's tiles. Now, these ones here, this is tile 1, tile 1, 2, tile 1, 3. None of them have, all these ones here, none of them at all have any collider. And they all have an animator. I don't need the animator, so let's get rid of them all. So I'll remove components from all of them. And the other thing is that each of the tile has both a cube and a plane. So the smart thing would have been for me to create these tiles as a prefab, right? So if I was to make these tiles into a prefab, like one of these, so here's my prefab, and here's tile and this tile 1. But first I want to add in 2 colliders. I can't add it to here because this is just a container that includes a cube and a plane, right? So I want to add in 2 colliders. I don't know what the cube is doing in there, but I want to definitely add it for both colliders. So both of those meshes, I want to add in a new physics mesh collider, right? And if I pull this tile in, this is probably what I should have done, right? If I pull this tile down over here, then I have a prefab that I can use. So what I can do is probably try that again, right? So get rid of all these for a second. I'm just to put them back into place in a second. That won't take long. So what I can do is pull them back in. So 1, 2, 3, and now they all have the collider, the meshes, and they're all slightly different. So again, I can pull this one in there, and then just pull this aside a little bit. Oops, pull this aside a little bit, and then grab the V and pull it in. It's good practice to kind of see that, right? And it kind of slaps into place. Right, this same thing with this one. There's another one over here, and put this over here. Sorry, and I'll just grab this one here and pull this into place. So, and pull it so that the opening is there, visible. And one last one, and pull this over here, and then just do the same thing. Come on, Tom. And that's not what I wanted, but anyways, it's kind of over here, but there we go. All right, so we've got our tiles, a little bit of tiles. Let's add some other ones from you guys. So I have some other example tiles. I know I grabbed some from Ashley earlier. Ashley, that was a mess. It wasn't your fault, it was my fault, right? But I have some other ones that I've done from today. Is anyone here that wants to use their tile in my example today? Like, Wendell, you want to use your tile? Do you have yours? Can you drop it onto Slack for me? So if you go to Slack, and if you look at COMP305 here, have a great day at work today. Yes, and of course they're asking for issues. If you go to tiles, I've got a couple of tiles that I got here from earlier, right? Can I get you, and actually if you want to drop in another one, you can, if you want to kind of put one together. But can I get you guys to put in just a couple of tiles? If you're here and you want me to use your tile, drop it into your Slack, into the tiles channel, right? And what I'll do is I'll go in there and grab it, and I'll use it just like I did for this morning's class. So Winnie, if you want to grab your tile, or anybody else, Alex, if you want to grab your tile and drop it in, or Ty, if you want to grab your tile. No, you don't like your tile? But I like it. No. Huh? Who cares? Put it in. How about you guys? Put your tiles into Slack. Come on. Drag and drop it in. Okay, so as soon as I get them, I'll include them into this thing, and then what we'll have is, and for people who are watching remotely, if there's anybody watching remotely and they want me to use their tiles, just drag and drop into your tile here, and as soon as I see some of them, I'll pull them in. I'll make a different kind of maze. I need a maze because I want to show you what it's like to navigate the maze with a mini map. The reason why we use a mini map is, there we go. We got Alex City Tile Blend. Okay, good. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to be textured right now. Okay. So I'm going to kind of grab this one, and then I'm going to pull up my Unity project. So on my desktop, I got my Unity project. Here's this one here, and my assets. I'm going to kind of pull them into my my models folder. I don't have very many models right now, but I will in a second. And then I'm going to also launch another Finder window, with a downloads folder, and then I'm just going to pull this one into this one. There we go. Done. All right, let's see what else. We got Alex's file, and let's see what else we have here. We got Alex's, and we got this one. Okay, lab 2 zip. I have to unzip that now, eh? You make me work. All right. And we'll bring this up. I thought you guys were going to be nice to me today. All right, I guess not. And just unzip this. Let's see what we got here. The gate. Okay, we'll use the gate. .blend. We'll pull this into the material. And then what else we got here? Okay, Tyraquan, very good. We'll pull this in too. No. I know, it's crazy. Eh? I can't grab them all. It's a little nutty. Tarot Tile 2. Okay, there we go. And Tile 1. Okay, you got me the blend file. There we go. Tile 1, Tile 2. Got a few of them now. We're running in. There's one now. That's awesome. Oh, and even Ashley's grass hedge tile. We'll grab that one too. And we'll grab one else. Anyone else? I think we've got quite a few of them, but it's nice to have a couple of them that we can use, right? So here's the beginning of the maze. That's Winnell's tile, and the grass hedge. Pull them in. There we go. All right, so we got I kind of got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new tiles that I'm going to add in now. Okay, I think that's good. And maybe we can duplicate these. If anyone wants to add in something else, let me know. And then another one. Finally, Ali did it. Okay, let's see. We'll put Ali's file in there. Hopefully you're proud of it, Ali. Ali. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm just going to kind of go in here and start doing this stuff, right? So they're all inside models, and now Unity is going to help us out by importing the models. Great thing is when I put it up on GitHub later on, you'll have access to all the models from other people, right? So you can see what they've done. That's why we did this whole thing in the first place, right? All right, so here's Alex D City Tile 1. Let's see how this looks. I want to see if it's awesome. If you're going to impress. Holy crap! It's like it's massive. Yeah. Okay, we're going to put on 0, 0, 0. That's probably the place to put it, and then kind of zoom in there. And it looked massive, but it was just close to my camera. And I got to kind of align this with this one. Actually, you know, I think it probably needs to be a little bigger than this. But anyways, let's just align it. So we're just going to go to V, snap it to the edges. And now let's see how this aligns with the door. Does it align? It does not align properly. So we're going to have to kind of move it aside, right, a little bit so we can actually get in there. Because there's the door right here, right? Otherwise, what's going to happen is it'll just miss there. It's kind of good. So we get to Alex's city tile 1. All right, so that's one in there. And let's add the next one, Ali's tile. We're just doing it in alphabetical order, right? So there's Ali's tile. That's pretty good. I like that one. What's wrong with that one? You don't like it? It's not good? Oh, I kind of like it. Now we have to be careful where we put it because it might cut us off, right? Because we don't want that. So we're going to put it over here. And we'll rotate this one. Oh, there's the opening over here. Okay, good. So you follow the precepts. Oops. Follow the precepts of what I asked you to do. And we'll kind of zoom in here and we'll move this around. Okay. So we'll kind of do one of these. So V-snap. Yes, we need an opening. Move this opening over here. It's not bad. It'll fit. Okay, a little bit more there. Okay, let's get the next one. Beginning of maze. I don't know what that is. We'll put that in there too. And let's see what this looks like. Okay, so this is kind of scaled differently, right? It's neat. It's kind of a corner, right? But it's scaled not the same as these ones. So what I'm going to have to do is increase the scale by factor on the Y at least by 1. Oh, wrong one. On the Z, I mean by double. So go from 20 to 40, right, to make it a little bit taller. So it'll be looking weird, but it's okay. And I'll rotate this because there's only 2 openings, not 4 like I asked for, to across the Z axis by 90 degrees. So 90. Okay. And we'll put it at the end over here somewhere. Snap to grid. And we'll zoom in, make sure that there's a connection, which by chance, there is. That's pretty good with a dead end, okay? In fact, I like this tile so much, we'll duplicate it and we'll spin it the other way around. So we'll kind of do a duplicate tile and we'll spin it so it goes the other way around. So this one will be rotated 100, or maybe minus 90. Okay, and we'll put it the other way around over here. So we can have almost this little level of complexity as it snaps into place. We can kind of align our tiles nicely like that. And it looks almost perfect. I mean, there's probably a bit of a thing. I'm doing it by eye, not really doing it by. So you can see I'm kind of piecemealing this maze a little bit. Here's my grass hedge tile. This is Ashley's tile, right? Pull this out. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's go into there. It looks a little bit low, so I'm probably going to increase the Z to 40. And let's see how big this is. Okay, that's pretty good. I have a big tile. A hedge maze. That's pretty good. Maybe I'll add a couple of those too as well. Focus in there. And we'll kind of spin it to work with Pedro's tile. So we'll spin this on the Z axis by 90. And oops. I'll kind of put that in there. And we'll snap this to, I know it's like watching paint peel a little bit, guys. Just bear with me while I do this. So we can get all these tiles in there to make a more complex maze, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to get a maze that doesn't work. So I'm kind of, or you won't know why I'm using a mini map, right? So Command D. No, that's not what I wanted. And I want to spin this now 0, no, minus 90, sorry, 90, there we go. And kind of snap those two together to make a couple of those tiles put together. So V-snap, and that might work out. Let me see. A little bit narrow, maybe I want to put it like this, pull it in together. So that kind of works out a little bit nicer with a bunch of spaces to fall to your death. Like if you kind of go down the wrong place, you're done, right? So far, so good. We have a couple more tiles here. I'm going to pull into the scene. I'll pull this one in. There. Now, I'm going to add in the colliders manually. This one needs to be resized as well. Looks like the Z needs to be 2. But it looks weird if I do that. Maybe 1.5. Yeah, maybe 1.5. And maybe this should be 15 as well. Make it a little larger in general. And I'll spin this one. So I'll rotate this across the Z-axis 90 degrees. So it kind of can work with Ashley's tile over here somehow. So we'll kind of V-snap this one to this one and zoom in. That works okay. And we'll kind of see, does it actually connect? It does actually, nicely. Look at that. It's beautiful. All right. Actually, I like that tile a lot. And maybe we'll put one over here too. So I kind of will duplicate that one, pull it across over here, and over here, and then snap that one to grid. So kind of do one of those. It's not what I wanted because I'm looking at it from a wrong angle, but that's okay. Sorry, just trials and tribulations of zooming in Unity. Okay, so we're gonna make it like this. That's pretty good. So another tile there. So a couple of interesting patterns that have emerged. We have a couple more. We have maybe tire tile 2 and the gate, and then we're done. Tire tile 2. Oh, that's neat. That's really neat. Okay, let's make that one big too. That's kind of one that we probably want to make a little larger. So we'll kind of make that one 2 times larger on this side, and then that may be a bit too big. So maybe 1.5 again. 1.5. We'll do the same trick. 1.5, 15, and 15, just to make it so it's proportional. 1, 2. Okay, and we'll kind of V-snap that one in. And we'll pull this aside. Now you guys have access to this on Slack too. If you wanted to make your own tile sets, you know, as opposed to doing this, you can certainly do that. That's kind of a neat little entryway. But you can see how it's going. It's kind of a, you know, ragtag maze with some places that are dead ends. And we can keep going until we create like a wall or whatever. Let's make the gate. The gate room will be, wow, that's massive. Okay, let's do this over here. And so way over here on this side is where the exit's going to be somehow. So we're going to kind of do one of those, and we'll fly into that, and we'll do a V-snap to the bottom, and we'll go right in. It looks massive, but actually it's not. In fact, maybe it's a little small compared to the other one. Let's see how that aligns. Does it align? So maybe not. Now it does. So kind of, you know, see what it looks like inside there. That's good. And you know what? Across the Z-axis, it looks like it needs to be a little bigger. So maybe we'll expand this one to about 1.5 in each way, and then I'll re-snap it. It's gonna make it. I'll make it the big one. There we go. As long as it's proportional for me, that's the most important thing, right? So V-snap this one in there, and then we'll kind of pull it aside again until we can see the opening come through. That's pretty good. All right, so we got a bigger kind of tile. This is the gate tile, and wow, there's some neat cannons you got on the neat model, very neat model. Whoever came up with that. Wow, it's really cool. All right, so we got this tile, and when we get to this tile, there's going to be something that gets us to the next level. All right. So again, I can put a primitive in place for now, like some kind of cylinder. It's almost like we'll make a monolithic kind of cylinder in the middle, which will be the way to get out of the maze, right? So I'm going to kind of I'm going to create a new 3D object, cylinder, and it's pretty small. I'm going to zoom in there. It's pretty darn small. So we're going to expand that thing to make it bigger. Now it's much bigger. And we'll put it down into the scene. And we'll make it so that it cannot be, so it has a capsule collider, but we won't make it a rigid body, so you can't do anything with it. And we're going to have colliders to everything else anyway. So now let's make the mesh a little different. So we'll go into my materials folder, and we'll go into the, we'll call it the gate material. New material, we'll call it the gate. And the gate will be green. We'll make it a green material so we know it's that people will escape in this way. We'll change it from a standard to a standard specular setup. We'll change the smoothness so it's very, very shiny. And we'll also include a specular alpha. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And let's add that in. So if I click this one, which is the this one, cylinder, which I will rename the exit. The exit is going to be this big cylinder, and we're going to drag and drop that gate out to this. So you can see that's the exit. And we're not going to make this a capsule collider. We'll add it as a trigger. So whenever we hit this trigger, we'll pass through it, but we'll actually be able to exit the right out of the the level, right? So that's what it's going to be. That's where we have to get to. All right, so some interesting models. We have to add some colliders. Luckily, a lot of these don't require me to go into too much detail. Like they're not different layers. I can just do one of these, right? Except for the exit. Sorry, so to there, and then just add in another component, a physics mesh collider, right? So that'll kind of add the colliders we need, right? And I think city tile needs to be done as well. So physics mesh collider, right? And the gate's special. The gate has a bunch of other stuff in here, right? So we're going to get rid of the animator, but all of these special cubes that have been modified, every one of them requires some kind of mesh collider. So I'm going to add in physics mesh collider because I don't know what the cubes are going to, they've been all modified inside here to look what they're going to look like. And if I was to kind of zoom in here, you can see that each of the items has their own mesh collider, right? So the plane itself, everything else, it all has mesh colliders, so we can actually go in there and collide with everything. Okay, so I think we covered everything. Now a good thing to do is to actually play and see what we got, right? So let's like wander through the maze a little bit. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so we don't know which way to go yet. And imagine if you're playing this game, you don't know where to go, and you're walking through, right? And you want to find the exit, right? So you find a dead end, and you go over here to this dead end. And there's nothing here, and over here, and nothing here, and over here, looking for the exit. You don't know where it is, man. I've kind of piecemealed this thing together. That's why I put all these like dead ends here, and you got to go back, right, to find where you are, and you don't have any clue about how to find that. If you didn't know where it would be, I mean, you'd have to kind of find it out. So it's not here. And you can't, if you couldn't see out there, you wouldn't know where to go unless you're lucky to do this. Now remember, I made this cylinder so that you can like pass right through it, right? But these items, I'm going to collide because they've got their own mesh colliders, right? And maybe I can even jump on top of them. Cool. But the cylinder is going to be our way out, this cylinder thing. By the way, we can add some kind of particle effect if you really want to make it glow and give off particles. Like, find me, some kind of particle emitter. Okay, but for now we're good. So the maze works, but we don't have any way of knowing where to go. Okay, I think it's a great place to stop. I've got the maze built. I'm going to save it, upload it to GitHub so everyone can have the same maze as me. And when we come back, I'll add in the dreaded minimap and see how it works. So I'll save the scene, I'll save the project, I'll exit Unity, and I go into here, and I'll go clear. Oh, git add dot, git commit -m, and I'll say created outdoor scene. Go. Git push origin master. So now everyone should have this stuff. I've added, it's only a couple meg what I did when I changed the scene. So everyone should have this. So let's take a short break and we'll come back, we'll continue.